I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, December the 5th, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics, a livestock technology company. Performance Beef simplifies feeding, performance, and health data recording. It helps with invoicing. It combines feeding and input costs to create professional and accurate invoices at the touch of a button. Also, create accurate closeouts and break-evens in seconds. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Pesky competitive cash markets. I was sitting in the sale barn for 2 solid days this week, which I go to sale barns all the time, but it's not every week that I sit in a big sale for 2 solid days talking to people, and it gets all kinds of crazy thoughts going through my mind, and then of course I got to share them with you guys. But we're not ready for the market to break. Now, your Chicago board and those that make money off of it, namely your funds, they cannot wait for this market to break, and they think, my gosh, you know, we had a little lull there and this thing's going back up here, and we're at all-time record high prices on these calves and some of these feeder cattle. We got the fat cattle market back up to 190. Let's break her now. It's not ready. You guys are just going to have to wait. I know we've gone past the 10 years and we're going now on 11 there, and that's past what your normal cycle is, but you just can't help it. We've got these pesky competitive cash markets, and they are holding this market up, and it's because of tight supplies, out of sight demand, the big rains that we saw, the moisture. We've got winter forage like we haven't had in recent memory. Lots of places to put these stocker cattle. It's just not time for the market to go down. We still got competitive fed cattle trade. Iowa, for one, keeps selling more cash as a percentage of their total sales of feedlot cattle, and they're holding the market up. They're helping out there. The feeders there, namely your farmer feeders, they're giving up some premiums, selling them on the grid or some kind of a formula deal to have some trade leverage. They like having trade leverage. They would rather be able to gain a buck or two in the market when they have the opportunity, rather than just see the market fall and outsell their neighbor when the cattle come back with their premiums. And we thank them for that. The Southern Plains gave up a long time ago. We don't sell enough cattle in the Southern Plains to wad a shotgun anymore. But we've lost all leverage in the trade on the South. And we keep thinking it's going to go all the way away. It's not going to go all the way away. They've got just a few guys in Texas and Kansas that continue to sell cash cattle. They want to keep those guys there. And because that's the way that they want to keep it. If we got rid of all the trade, we'd have to find some other way to price cattle, and probably it wouldn't be as advantageous for the packers as what it is right now. So they're not too crazy about that. But even on your feeder cattle, we're already looking for sharply lighter placements on this month's Cattle on Feed report. Now, it's not coming out here for a couple of weeks, but they're already looking at that, and we're looking at double-digit lighter placements. Now that is going to make things really bullish. If it does, and it's likely going to happen, because we've just had lighter offerings in our feeder cattle compared to a year ago in November, because so many places were wet and they couldn't get the cattle in, so they had lighter runs. Now we've had pretty good runs here already in December because they were holding back, and then after the Thanksgiving holiday break they were able to get cattle up, and they've been putting them in this week, and we've had some pretty good runs. But a lot of the big sales were lighter in November, and we keep seeing in the northern plains where those best cattle are at, there in the sand hills of Nebraska and in South Dakota, maybe over into Wyoming and Montana, there's just a lot lighter runs of heifers showing up. They're keeping the fancy heifer calves back at Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska, where right in there's the best cattle in the world. That's where they're born and raised, guys. They only had 25% heifers out of their feeder cattle run on Wednesday. They're keeping a lot more of them back. Now, like I said, they did that last year early, kept the lighter heifers back, and then market got so good on yearlings they ended up selling their keeping heifers as yearling feeder heifers later. Now, we probably will see a little of that, but eventually these guys are going to start keeping more of them back, and that's just going to exacerbate our tight supplies. This is going to be really bullish. Another thing about your tighter supplies in November is the lack of Mexican imports, and that just happened here late. But we're going to see that going forward, and they got really good information for the Mexican cattle, Mexican feeders coming north, and so they put a lot of stock in that. And I'm talking about the average of the analyst's guess. When they get something that they got their teeth really into and they know that it's right, like those import numbers, they put a lot of stock into it. So we're going to see lighter numbers of imports coming up until they get this screwworm deal straightened out. And likely, I don't think we're going to see anything out of Trump's imports right away, or the tariffs on the imports, which would affect cattle too. It was just a pretty darn good threat there to get both Canada and Mexico to help us shut down some of that illegal immigration coming down from Canada and coming up from Mexico there. But that screwworm deal has still got our Mexican imports shut off, and it's likely going to go well into January, but we don't know how long it's going to go. But that will make a big difference on our placements, both at the tail end of November and then going into December there. But we've just got a competitive cash market, not so much on the fed cattle, but all the way on these calves. And you know, on our big four packers, they're tightening their belt a little bit. I mentioned on our last visit that Emporia Tyson plant is going to be closing permanently. I would not expect that to be the only one. It's going to get tighter, and then coming this spring, we've got some new packing plants that are not big four that's coming on. They don't want to get in too much competition with them, but it would be nice to see them back off of that 85% control over fed steers and heifers. But likely your big four should have saved some of those all-time record profits that they had during their gouging during the pandemic there. But now we've heard that Cargill is going to be expecting to make some cuts going forward here. Now, they haven't named any plants yet, but they are saying that they're going to be tightening their belt a little bit. And like I said, it's a shame that they don't save up. You know, that's what all the other producers have to do, or all the cattle feeders and the cattle and the backgrounders and the cow-calf producers. You know, when they have really good years, they kind of have to sock some away and keep it back because they know it's going to be lean. You know, there's more years of losing money whenever you're raising or feeding cattle than there are makers. So you kind of have to allow for that, and they've learned how to do that. And, you know, also our big corporate feeders, they may not admit it, and even though they do participate in auctions at a certain level to fill their feed yards, if they had it their way, if they were honest, they really, really would rather not have to deal with these competitive sale barns as much as they do. They would rather buy the cattle in just a direct trade there, where they don't have to compete against the whole seats full of buyers there. And you know, the guys that you talk to out and about are not going to say that, because most of them grew up in the sale barn. That's how they had the skills to go to work for those big corporate feeders. But that's what scares me the most about this mandatory ID, and the thought of it may be getting over into all classes of cattle, or calves and yearlings, because if it would, you know, a lot of our producers or backgrounders are not going to be able to have all them tagged. The sale barns are going to have to charge, you know, we're figuring probably $7 or $8 a head at least to run them through and put tags in them, even though they don't have time to do it, don't have the facility to do it, don't want to do it. they're going to have to charge something for that. Going to be shrink involved. They don't have the help to do it. And you're going to see a lot of your feed yards just say, oh heck, don't worry about those tags, just send them with the truck, we'll put them in here at the feedlot whenever you get them there, but here's what we're going to pay you for those cattle. And they're not going to have to compete with a whole risers full of buyers sitting there and bidding on the internet and on the phone and everywhere else. But it's just it's kind of exciting times, and it's kind of a tilt here, but these numbers of cattle are going to get tighter for at least the next year, and likely more than that. But they're going to gang up on this market, and they're going to break it at some point. And that's what worries me about a lot of backgrounders, especially. They've kind of fallen out of love here in the short term on your LRPs, because they do cost quite a bit, and they haven't been getting paid for them. And so some people are backing off the LRPs and leaving themselves exposed. Now, guys, I don't know when the market's going to break. I don't think anybody else does either, but I guarantee it's going to happen before you think it's time to happen. And if you know exactly when that's going to be, more power to you. But I sure think you need to keep yourself protected, guys. And I wouldn't go unprotected there when you're turning out these really high dollar stocker cattle. I was in Beaver County stockyards both Tuesday and Wednesday. I tell you what, they've really turned that sale barn into something. It was just a small country sale barn just a few years ago, and Jeff Slatton and his family have just turned it into something big. It's a big regional market now. They sold 8,500 cattle through the ring at Beaver, Oklahoma this week. And of course, I've been talking so much about my friend Josh Nine and his terrible cancer diagnosis, and we just want to do whatever we can do to try to help him fight this. We don't want to be a burden on him. We want him to concentrate on getting better. But we had a rollover auction on Tuesday. We had a bull donated by Mike Cantrell there, a good Charolais bull. They sold it. He donated all that. We had another rollover auction on Wednesday. We had a silent auction there. We had people just donating things, sending in items to be silent auctioned off, and sending in checks and well wishes. Had a family from Indiana, probably don't know exactly where Beaver, Oklahoma is, but they watch them on the internet and they hear me talking about them, and they heard about Josh Nine, and they sent in a whole box of things to be silent auctioned off, sent a check, and sent a really nice letter there. And then you just love people like that, and there's so many of those kinds of people in our kind of business. And boy, if these sale barns aren't the pillars of the community whenever people need it, I don't know what would be more so. But all together, through the Tuesday donations and the Wednesday donations and then the silent auction, we're going to be either side of $200,000 that's been donated to the Josh Nine Medical Fund. And the Beaver County Stockyards will continue to take those donations, and we don't care what it takes to get him better. But if we have to back up to the hospital with a dump truckload of cash, we're going to figure out how to do it and how to get him straightened up. But just thank everybody there. I have to say, on Wednesday we had that special cow sale, and as wild as the feeder sale and the calf sale was on Tuesday, I have to say I was a little disappointed in the replacement sale. Now, they still brought good money, but on most of your fancy bred heifers and young bred cows, $3,000 would stop them. Now, we had several bunches that went over that, but for the most part, in most of your big drafts, you start getting up to $2,000, and then those buyers put the brakes on, and it's just hard to believe that a big yearling steer on Tuesday would yield dang near as much money per head as a young bred cow or a fancy bred heifer. And you don't see that very often, but people just don't want to have to keep and take care of cows year round anymore, and I don't blame them. I'm not a cow man myself. Always preferred turning stockers out. It's more fun, but we've got to find some people that will do it. Thank God your cow-calf producers are getting paid both last year and this year big bucks for their calves, because it's a lot of work, guys. and it's year-round. You don't get to do it seasonally, and when you get them straightened out, you don't get to kind of back off and windshield them and just enjoy watching them grow. You've got to take care of those cows day in and day out, year-round, and worry about your calf crop and the health on everything. And it's just a lot of work, and the people that do that are getting older, and there's more of the younger ones that are moving out, and we're running out of them. And whenever we do restock this herd, it's not going to be nearly as big as it was on the last cycle. Just like the last cycle wasn't nearly as big as the one before. There's just going to continuously be fewer and fewer cow-calf producers. There's less places to put them. You can't really afford the ground by running cows on there, and there's less people that actually want to do it. But let's look at your board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures were down 10 cents at 188.37. February down 75 cents at 188.32. Then your back months were down more, from 65 cents lower to down 110. Feeder cattle for January down pretty hard, as active as this feeder market is, but it is January, so you know, we're kind of dealing in a bastard month here, so they can play around with it all they want to, and they'll really play around with it during the holidays. But when it gets into January, it'll have to tighten up with those index levels. But January feeder cattle on Wednesday were down 235 at 256.95, and that's a big discount to what those index levels are for the cash market. March feeder cattle down 157 at 255.70, and then your back months on feeder cattle down 80 to down 150. Your grains have been kind of quiet here as we've gotten done completely with harvest, but March corn was down 2 1/4 cents a bushel at 4.30 a bushel. January beans down 8 cents at 9.83 3/4, and hard red winter wheat for March up 3/4 cent at 5.42 1/2. Your fat cattle trade, haven't seen a whole lot going on a direct basis out of our 5-area feeding region. We're starting to get a little trickle of trade, and as much as a lot of your big analysts and a lot of those funds and those that trade the board, as much as they want it to get cheaper, I don't think it's going to get cheaper. I think it's going to be at least steady, if not stronger. We did see about 600 sell in Iowa on Wednesday on a direct basis at 190 live. Nebraska sold about 200 at 190. That's square within last week's price range, and not too bad of a price there. Kansas didn't have any direct sales on Wednesday. Texas, they just had one pen. It actually sold on the Fed Cattle Exchange, and it sold bid the grid, which is a FOB price. You know, they're bargaining on the base price, and then it's still open to premiums and discounts there. But a lot of times, especially in the Southern Plains, your grid-based market is exactly the same as your cash market. And on Wednesday, we did see Fed Cattle Exchange sell some in Texas at 191. And you say, well, it's just a pen. Hell, they don't ever sell more than 5,000 in the entire Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma, and eastern New Mexico. So, you know, that's something to kind of take note of. Now, how about this auction? You know, it never ceases to amaze me how having cattle in an auction in front of people that want to buy them, showing the goods to them, just yields bigger prices. And I wish everything was sold in the sale barn. Not one of these guys that thinks we need fewer of them or just a few big ones around. We need more auctions. That's where you find out what these cattle are worth. At Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, they had 1,600 head of slaughter cattle, counting their cows and bulls and everything, but a good run of fat cattle in there. And compared to 2 weeks ago, your fat steers were $10 higher on fat cattle, guys. $10 higher ain't nothing on a 300-pound calf. It is really something on a 1,500-pound fat steer. But $10 higher than 2 weeks ago, the last sale they had, heifers were $8 to $10 higher. That's significant. Conventional fat cattle in Worthing, South Dakota bring from 192 to 198.75. Your program cattle, drug-free or non-implanted, about the same price, not really a premium for them because they were all selling well, but they sell from 191 to 198 1/4. Had a few weighing over 1,600 pounds up to 199.50. You think they're not wanting tonnage, guys? And the market reporter there, they got good market reporting there at Sioux Falls Regional Livestock. They said even the small lots, the odd and end lots, were bringing over 190. That's significant, guys. That's really significant. That's usually where those buyers cheapen up so they can be a little more competitive on the bigger bunches. But that's very impressive. Had a good sale at Glacial Lakes Livestock in Watertown, South Dakota. DV Auction broadcaster, as well as Sioux Falls Regional. But they had 940 head of slaughter cattle in Watertown, South Dakota. Conventional fat cattle, they all sold higher from 185 to 190. Program cattle 190 to 194.50. Fat Holsteins from 160 to 165, and big fat fed cows from 128 to 135. Market's good, guys. Box beef cutout values were kind of mixed. Choice cuts were down 250 at 308.33. Selects were up 237 at 277.70. Your slaughter, oh, it's falling behind just like it does every week here, but 367,000 through the first 3 days of the week. That's 3,000 less than last week, up before the holiday on Thursday, so that'll fall way off here as we move on through the week. But 3,000 less than this point last week, 11,000 less than this point at the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. We're having fun with the Punchy Pick of the Month contest, guys. I know you guys look forward to it. I can't say that I look forward to that particular episode of the Feeder Flash every week because it takes me a lot longer to edit it. But I do enjoy getting the picks in and taking a look at them and giving people credit and mentioning people from all over the country that are Feeder Flash gang members. But we couldn't do the Punchy Pick of the Month contest without Beaver Feed Company in Beaver, Oklahoma. Of course, Beaver County Stockyards and Fairpiece, that gives away an entire case of Fairpiece every month to the grand prize winner of the Punchy Pick of the Month contest. Stay tuned to a video that I'll attach to the end of this episode of the Feeder Flash for more information on there. But to send in your Punchy Pick, all you do, if you got the pick on your phone, just email that pick to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com and you're automatically entered. Of course, we like getting the kids' corral picks too. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV Auction late in the day on Wednesday after the sales had closed, sitting at 260.97. It's always up to date and current. Now it did go down a little bit from Tuesday, but we had big commodity sales there. But 260.97 was down 59 cents. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 259.82. Some big sales to look forward to the balance of this week. Joplin Regional Stockyards got their big wean back special here today on Thursday. Not starting it so early because you know, they got bigger bunches, more uniform, and they'll all be weaned and vaccinated there. But it's going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning. View and bid that sale on DVAuction.com. Soon as the wean back special is over, going to have a pretty darn good size primetime livestock video. Got over 100 loads of cattle on that. So be looking forward to that. Also on DV Auction. Then Elite Livestock Sales, my friends down there in the Southeast are having their big video sale for December. It starts at 3 o'clock Central on DVAuction.com, so be sure and check that one out. Going to have a pretty good sale up there in Dickinson, North Dakota at Stockman's Livestock Exchange. 3,500 to 4,000 fancy calves up there, and they're starting to run out, guys. If you want to get some of those calves up there, you better start getting in here because they all sell kind of in a cluster, and before long we're going to be running out of them. On Friday, my buddy Jack Payne and the whole gang out there at Fallon, Nevada are going to be having a big special. It's kind of a second special that they're having on December. We will have one on the 20th of December, and I'll be down there for that. But they're going to have one on Friday the 6th here, and they're going to have over 5,000 head and lots of those high altitude desert light pee-wee calves weighing in the 4s and the 5s, just dying to turn out somewhere where they can graze. I mean, there's going to be a lot of them there. He's got kind of a replacement sale there towards the end of that sale too, but be sure and check that out at Fallon, Nevada. That's going to be on Friday on DVAuction.com. And then our newest member of our DV Auction broadcast family of sale barns is Shakota, Oklahoma, and they're a Friday sale. So if you've been interested in them, get on and check them out. If you think you might want to buy some cattle out of there, get on a little early, call on and tell them you would like to be approved so you can bid. But Shakota Livestock in Shakota, Oklahoma, we're glad to have you, people. All right, let's talk about your big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 10,300 head with their calf sale on Tuesday and their feeder sale on Wednesday. But a lot of those bigger feeders on Wednesday are going to go back to wheat, guys. That's just what's happening right now. But compared to 2 weeks ago, market reporters there do a good job, and they called feeders $4 to $8 higher. They called calves $10 to $20 higher, with spots $40 higher on stocker calves. I don't know how much higher you can call it than that, guys. That's about as high as I've ever seen. Stick-out sale in El Reno was 78 feeder steers, weighed 806 pounds, and bring 263. Big time quote for anywhere, guys. They didn't have their federal state market report out when I recorded late on Wednesday, but Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas sold 4,300 head. The calves especially sure looked sharply higher to me on that auction there when I pulled it up on Cattle Market Central. Let's talk about Bassett Livestock Auction, Bassett, Nebraska. They've added DVAuction to their broadcasting too. They sold 3,450 or more than that, a few more than that there at Bassett Livestock Auction. And it was just a lot higher. They hadn't had a sale there for a while to really call a trend, but it was just, demand was outstanding. Your market was outstanding. And like I said earlier, 75% steers, only 25% heifers there. But the Bassett was your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day. Check out these best tested weights and notice hardly any heifers. But 450 head of 4-weight steers would be fancy in Bassett, Nebraska. They averaged 457, a weighted average price of $391.11. That is almost $4 on a big bunch of them, are all together weighing in the fours, guys, and averaging over 4.5. Check out this. 1,248 head of 5-weight steers in Bassett, Nebraska had a weighted average weight of 547. Weighted average price on all of them of $364.48. Wow. Average on all of them, nearly 1,250 head, that high. How about 744 head of 6-weight steers in Bassett, average 629 at 328.90. The heifers, 240 head of them in the 4-weight class, average 463 at 341.37. 400 head of 5-weight heifers, average 545 at 319.57. Some individual quotes from all around that'll excite you guys. How about South Central Regional Stockyards in Vienna, Missouri? My friend the Patton family there. 73 steers weighed 729 and bring 276 in South Central Missouri, guys. How about Russell County Stockyards in Russell Springs, Kentucky? They sell 73 feeder steers, weigh 795 and bring 263. Hub City Livestock in Aberdeen, South Dakota had 65 big steers, weighed 920 pounds, bring 261. Another very impressive quote that I saw, and actually was given to me by my friend Gary Marks there that gives us the Fat Cattle Market on Tuesday. He told me that these steers could read and write. So maybe they will justify this price that they got at Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota. It was 80 steers, weighed 754, bring 302. Not 700 pounds at 302, but 754 at 302. But that wasn't the best. The most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, indeed come out of Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. It was 115 head of fancy 520 pound steers, bring $4 a pound or 2,080 bucks. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.
This is the bunk line of the calves that have received therapies 48 hours ago. He just fed them. This is the bunk line of the calves who did not receive therapies. And he literally just fed them too. And they finally have just come up to bunk. Again, calves with Therapies. The bunk line is full.